All right, so welcome to everyone. So we're doing this video and we're very happy to be able to have Robert with us today from Freelance Translators Tips YouTube channel. So we're very happy to have you. We'll be able to enjoy your experience as a freelance translator and as working for a translation company as well that you have yourself, I think.
Yes. Yes, and thank you, and I'm happy to be here.
Lovely. So we'll be able to tap into your knowledge. That's great. So let's say I'm a translator student and I'm learning at the university. Are there things that for preparing me to the real world that I will be able to, that I will need to look for in my training, or that should try to investigate more or hone more skills on while my time at the university?
So if you are a student in university and if you are studying translation right now, then yes, I would say you're kind of halfway there in a way, because you're getting your education in translation. But the other part that you should be thinking about already now would be helpful is your specialization. And so if you are a translator, you'll most likely be specializing in, engineering and medical and finance and marketing and literary translation, what have you. And this is something you should be keeping in mind. And so this could involve many things. It could involve taking other classes. It could involve maybe taking a job or an internship or a stage, or it could involve maybe even doing a minor or a major, depending on what type of school program you're in. But either way, realize when you become a translator, you're not just a translator, but you're a translator in a certain field, in a certain industry. And so you should be keeping this in mind already from the get-go and seeing which direction you want to go in. And this will depend also, you don't have to pull it out of a hat. This will also depend on your interest, or maybe what you've worked in, the industries you've worked in, or what you've studied in the past. And so look to that as well. But yeah, definitely have that specialization in mind, in addition to translation skills.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, that's important. It's great to know about that. You mentioned internships and that sort of things. Is it worth it to try to get into a mentorship program?
Yes, that's the short answer. And I actually think even for anyone in the world, it's good to be in some sort of mentorship program and have a mentor of sorts. It's one of the things I really regret not having. And I think I wasted a lot of time and made a lot of mistakes and whatnot by not being in any type of mentorship program or having a mentor. Now, I know some schools have a more formalized mentorship program and some don't. So I would say whatever you can find is better than nothing. And so if there is a formalized mentorship program, I recommend taking it. Often it will be, at least in my experience, mentorship programs, sometimes it can be with people who are in a completely different industry, but they want to help out students and what they're doing. That's fine. Obviously, if it's someone from the translation industry, they can help you with more specialized issues. But even people from other industries, in fact, very often it's helpful because they can give you insight from different industries and from different points of view. But yes, I think any type of mentorship program is very helpful because it's someone who's gone through a lot of the same things you're going through. They've made a lot of the mistakes that you're about to make, and so you don't have to make them. And it's just good to have a guide who can sort of steer you the right direction, or at least show you what avenues you can take. And yeah, like I said, I regret not having it. In a way, that's what I feel like, I guess what we're both doing with our channels is, helping out and acting kind of as mentors to other translators. And so I think it's something very important. And so I do recommend that.
Would you have any tips on where and how to find mentorship?
So like I said, some schools have mentorship programs, and so definitely look into those. And if the school has like a career counseling department or something, they'll probably know more about mentors and mentorship programs. But otherwise, very often it's people in the industry, and especially if you've already started working or something like that, find other people in the industry. In my experience, people are very approachable in this sense, and people like helping other people, and they like also being able to talk about what they've been through, and kind of adapt it in a way that's useful. And I really think so if there's something formal, go for something formal, but if there isn't, there's still many ways to find mentors, and in a way it could be someone who is in a position you'd like to be in one day, or maybe someone who's doing something that you find interesting, maybe just a person you find interesting. There's you can approach anyone you want. I'm not sure if you want to approach them right away and ask, please be my mentor, please be my mentor, because they might think, oh, how much time does this person want from me? But if you do find the person interesting, then you've probably talked to them or had some interaction with them. And so you can ask them. I'd love to meet you for coffee every now and then, just to talk, because I find it very useful. And you can start off slowly and build up a relationship from there. But yeah, I think it's worth looking into it. In fact, even maybe do a search if there are mentorship programs close to you. If you are a student, maybe your school doesn't offer it, but it's being offered around, because I know they exist in various places. Anyway. So, try searching around, see what there is, whether it's more formal or not. Either way, I think will help.
Thank you. Yeah, that's great. So yeah, overcome shyness is
yes,
be important in that. Yeah.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah, it depends on how people are. Yeah, but yeah, you need to go beyond that. Actually, that brings me back into what you've been mentioning before, about specialization. I've had this feeling, and this sometimes I chatted about it with people, that translators need to be curious-minded. Would you feel it's important to sort of be interested in a lot of things and try to build your culture about different fields, so that helps you when you're translating?
Yes and no. I think yes, it really helps, and I know it's really helped me. I love languages and linguistics in general, even if it's languages that have nothing to do with my language pair. But I definitely find it interesting, and it's definitely helped me, because anytime there are issues or things that come up, I want to look into it more and discover more. So it definitely helps in terms of translation. And then in terms of your specialization as well, no matter what your specialization is, obviously the more interest you have in it, the better. And also in terms of things like continuous education. If you are, maybe you do financial translations, I know some people will want to look into maybe getting a CFA or getting some other type of certification or something in finance, just to build up their credentials. And you're not going to do that unless you have an interest in it. And so in that sense, I think it's important. And the reason I say yes and no is, the no section is, well, so how do I put this? If you are a finance translator, some people, they get curious about other types of specializations and they want to look into it. And yeah, in your own time, if you're interested in it, definitely do that. But you don't always, let me put it this way. The more you're niched and the more you're specialized, and if you can get translation and work in that niche, in that specialization, then you will be getting paid more, because you will be an expert in it. And the more you do, the more of an expert you'll become. You'll be working more quickly, because you'll be doing similar things. And so you'll know what needs to be done and how it needs to be done. And so you'll be basically earning more for less effort, or for the same amount of effort. And so career-wise, this will help you a lot. If you try to be very broad and be in a bunch of different specializations and industries, then this won't happen. And in fact, it can be very tough. So that's why I usually recommend people, when they've reached a certain level, to try to niche very much. So that's why I say, if you're curious about other things, absolutely be curious. That's great. And, look into it, but realize that you're kind of doing this on your own time. And and you never know. For me, I never studied the law, but it ended up being one of my specializations, because that happened over time. So this could happen, but in the meantime, it'll take a lot of learning and a lot of transition time. So it's just something you need to keep in mind as you're going on in your career.
Thank you, Robert. That's actually extremely useful to have that idea put out. Thanks. Thanks for that. Now, there are many sort of websites for translators. Some are like forums or things like that. Do you think sites like Proscom, Translators Cafe, and so on, can they help someone to be established as a translator?
Yes, definitely. I think pros.com and translatorscafe.com exactly are they're the main websites for translators. And I should say in the last year or two, LinkedIn has been huge, I think, just by virtue of the fact that everyone's been online, they've been remote. So people who are not in the translation industry are more and more on LinkedIn. So they've been finding, I know translators have been finding jobs and have been making contacts on LinkedIn as well, even though that's not especially for translators. But yeah, otherwise, Translators Cafe and pros.com, I think, are the main ones. There's some other ones out there as well. Translation Directory. I know there are country-specific ones. In Italy, there's Twago, and there was anyway. There are other ones for specific countries that you can look into, but those are the two main ones. Yes.
Some of these they offer like a paid membership. Is it worth getting when you're starting?
Usually my recommendation is to do just that. Translators Cafe is pretty much free. You can pay, but it's sort of like a donation, and I wouldn't worry about that. Don't pay for Translators Cafe, at least not at the beginning. You can choose to later, but pros.com I recommend paying. You can actually make your profile and everything for free, but if you want to start applying for jobs, so wait, I don't want to say the wrong thing. If you start applying for jobs, you have to pay per job that you start applying for. I think you put a credit of $20, and then every job costs you $1 or $2 or something like that. But if you pay for your yearly amount, then you don't have to worry about that. Plus, you see a lot more information of the companies that you're applying with and stuff like that. So I definitely, and usually what I say is at the beginning when you're first starting out, there's not much you need to spend money on. But pros.com is one of the things you should spend money on. It'll just save you time and headache in the long term, because chances are you will sign up for it at some point. At least most people do. And so I usually recommend doing that. I think it's at the time of this recording, at least, it's about $110 per year, and or equivalent in different currencies.
Yeah, that's including VAT, I think, or something like that. Yeah.
Yes. And so I think it's something that's definitely worth the investment.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, thanks for that. You mentioned profiles and resume. I think you can review people's. Is it resumes that you people are able to send out to you and check?
So on pros, or are you talking about me specifically?
Yeah.
Oh, yes. So yes, I do a resume review, and it's I offer it through my website. It's been backlogged, but yeah, you can submit your resume and I will review it. And what I do is I also have a short course that's available where I go through a resume in an ideal way for a freelancer. And because being a freelance translator, your resume actually has to be very different as compared to when you're applying for your standard 9-to-5 job and when you are and what you were taught in school, basically, because you don't have to show that necessarily that you will be a good, well-rounded person, a good colleague, and a good co-worker, and that you can fit the company culture. You kind of really just need to show that you can handle the job at hand, and that you're trustworthy. And so you really need to bring this across with the resume. And you need to do it quickly, because very often for these freelance jobs, people are going through resumes much more quickly because they just need it for that one job at hand. So anyway, I do recommend catering your resume to being a freelancer in general, to be a freelance translator. And like you said, I offer that service. I do offer the review, but it really depends on my time. And so that's why I kind of have this short course that I offer as well, which just goes through the main points that you would need in a resume as a freelancer. Yes.
Starting by the course anyway will save time for the translator. If they take the course, then they'll know what to do and what to look for. That's the best option. Well, thanks for that. That's good. That's great. So what is the best way to create a pool of clients? That's a hard one.
Yes, that is hard, and that's the dream, right?
Yeah.
So the best way to do it, I recommend usually, is to start off, if you have your pros.com account, the first few clients are going to be the toughest, the hardest. And I really recommend getting ratings or reviews from the first couple clients. And if you can get those, you can leverage those for, once you have 2 or 3 reviews, ratings, then it's a lot easier for future clients to hire you. I say this, like I have a translation agency. When I look at translators, I'm going to look at their pros.com profile. And if they have no ratings or reviews, I don't know what to judge them by. They can write as many things as they want on their profile, but those ratings and reviews really help a lot. And so at the beginning, concentrate on those, and that will help kind of get the gears going, get the traction. And so then you can start building things up. And from then on, if you're good at marketing, that's great. I quite frankly find that referrals work very well, and yeah, those ratings and reviews, and that way you can get a pool of clients, as you say, and of regular clients, which is also a good thing. If you can get those regular jobs from these clients, and that gives you more stability. And so this is very broadly speaking, but those I think are the best ways of building up your clientele when you're first starting out.
That's great. And if I followed well what you've explained, maybe being specialized then helps you to build up that stream of work.
Yes, and that's why. So, and what I tell people, like when I'm consulting with them or what have you, I say try to be the best in the world at what you do. If you are a German to Japanese translator in video games, be the best in the world at that. And that's why sometimes it seems like you're niching, you're excluding other things. But the idea is, if you can, be recognized as the best in the world, or, one of the top people in that field, then it can really help. And yeah, because the fields are small and people will start referring you and recommending you, your name will come up with various other clients and potential clients.
Yeah, definitely become a go-to translator for something specific.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's great. Have you found in your career, or that, or even when at the university, that there is an importance in getting knowledge about using CAT tools, or is it just something that can be done later or can get by without them?
So I think your experience and my experience have been quite different in this. So it might be interesting to compare. But I've had very little use for CAT tools, and it might just be the clients that I've had. When I started off, when I was a translator, I was in Switzerland. None of my clients needed CAT tools. None of them used them. And it was only later when I started trying to expand and get clients in other places that I encountered CAT tools. And I had issues with them because of various things. I have a Mac. They cost quite a bit of money, and so I was trying to get cheaper versions of them and whatnot. And so I had issues with CAT tools. On the other hand, I think, there's no doubting that they're extremely useful and they work extremely well when they're needed. So I think you're probably a lot better at answering this in general, just because you have more experience with CAT tools. But in my experience with CAT tools, I usually recommend that people, just get started with translating and see how it goes. And they can definitely explore some of the free options. And then kind of, and if they keep, if they are in a specialization that requires a lot of CAT tools, or it'll become very clear. And because a lot of clients will want CAT tools, and a lot of clients will be requesting it, and it'll keep coming across. And so that should make it clear that they should be investing more time and energy and effort and money in CAT tools. And then they should check out your channel and get all the information they can on CAT tools. The one thing I think they shouldn't do is delay getting started because they don't have a CAT tool. I feel like if you're first starting out as a translator, don't say, okay, I need to wait and do a bunch of research about CAT tools and figure out before I start. I think go ahead and try to get started, and then it'll become very clear if you should be, searching for CAT tools, what type of CAT tools, or how much use you should have for CAT tools, and you can take it from there.
Thank you for that. I think your experience is very precious in that regard, to be able to get that point across, because sometimes you will get the opinion that nowadays it's impossible to translate without using a CAT tool, or if you're not using a CAT tool, you're not a real translator, and that's just not necessarily true. It depends very much on what you're translating, how you're translating it, and where you come from, like you were explaining.
But yes, however, I should give a certain caveat. If I had to start over from scratch, I think I probably would invest more in CAT tools, and especially now. I mean, the technology is getting better and better and better. And obviously, when I started out, we had CAT tools, but they've. I think it pays to keep up with technology and to make sure not to refuse to use the technology. Let's put it that way, and so to be open to it. And so I think I was never really closed to it, but I did have a certain aversion to it. And I think if it would have been interesting, I don't know if it would have changed much, but if I'd been a bit more open to it and invested a bit more in CAT tools earlier on, I mean, who knows? And I think they are becoming. I mean, technology in general is just becoming a lot more pervasive, and whether it be CAT tools or just some type of machine translation, post editing, stuff like that. We're seeing a lot more of it, and so it's good to know what's going on, at least in the industry. And so anyway, so even if you're not using it at the beginning, I think look at it in your spare time and try to keep up with what's going on.
That's great. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, it's there are tools after all. So a tool is there to help you. You should be able to work better, and user friendliness in those things and how you benefit from them. I think is important. I was just for the anecdote. I was at the Machine Translation Summit earlier on this year, and it was a virtual event, of course, and I saw companies. There was the example, for example, of Ford. Ford, they built a huge machine translation system in-house that they have, and so they've used their translators to work on this, all in-house. But they had basically to design a translation interface for the users from scratch, and they found themselves reinventing the wheel and going closer to stuff that does already exist in CAT tools. So that's funny how sometimes there can be like this idea that it's one or the other. Some people are like no empty, some people are like completely empty, and some are reinventing the CAT from the empty perspective. So yeah, it's these are tools. They're there to help, and like you said, and then your mileage may vary depending on what people are doing. So that's very useful to get that input from you. And definitely, if you're a translator, you're starting out in translation, or you want to have tips to get more clients and make your client happy, improve your skills, go check Robert's channel, because there's like a million informations regarding that. You've seen his knowledge throughout this interview, and that's what you can get going to his channel. And he'll have a video as well where he interviews me about CAT tools, so you can get more on that on his channel. And I will have links to his channel and to the video when it comes out, so that you can check it out always. So definitely go check out Robert's channel, Freelance Translator Tips, and go subscribe and like his videos. So you will get a lot of interesting knowledge from that. Well, Robert, that was really nice to be able to have you and be able to tap into your knowledge, your experience, and what you've seen throughout these years on the translations market. And really nice to have you here. So thank you for that.
No, thank you very much for having me. It's been yeah, super interesting, and I think it's interesting. I think it's very good what you're doing, and providing all this, a lot more technical information than I could provide, and I think it's really needed. And so I was glad to find your channel actually, and so anyway, I'm more than happy.
Well, thank you. Well, that was great. Well, see you all. See you, Robert. Thank you.